Hey guys, trusting you're all well. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. It's been a while since I've done one, and it's another solo one. And the reason I thought I'd do this one is because it's around about, give or take a few days, the 5th anniversary of my first Ayahuasca ceremony back in 2013 it was, and thought I'd just have a bit of a chat about those experiences that I've had in the 5 years since, and how I view myself, how I view the world, how I relate to myself and the world, and the influence that ayahuasca and other plant medicines in that time have had. It feels like an absolute lifetime ago, 5 years. I was the other day, I was looking at one of the earlier podcasts that I'd done before I think I'd done maybe 5 or 6 different podcasts before my first ayahuasca ceremony. And I look back and I was just a boy, and how old would I have been? 30, must have been 32, 33. And I guess what the ayahuasca experience shows you or reveals, or whatever the terminology you might want to use, is a depth of perception, what is possible in this world / universe, and massive lessons along the way. Some amazing experiences, and also some not so amazing experiences as well, and I'll get more into that as this podcast goes along. There's the age-old question with ayahuasca, is it for everyone? I used to believe that it was. I don't feel that it is now. It's not through anyone's fault. It's a lot of it's got to do with the society / culture that we belong in, especially in this Western world, where it's not ingrained in us. Like in Australia, growing up eating Vegemite, you get used to it as you're older. But if you try Vegemite at the age of 30 for the first time, you're like, "Whoo, what's this?" And I think the ayahuasca experience is very similar to that, to use a terrible analogy. But it's certainly for those who are wanting to seek and wanting to heal. And the people that I've met along the way have been a mix of both, with varying degrees. I think I was much more in the seeking side of things, with some healing to do there. I feel like I got what I was looking for. And in those 5 years, I've had over 30 ceremonies now. I hadn't planned to do that many at all, but it's just the way it went. I was very fortunate to travel to many different parts of the world and experience medicine with many different medicine practitioners / shamans, and it was an amazing time. I haven't really sat with the medicine for over 12 months now, but certainly initially those first 3 years were quite an experience, and I learnt a lot. I shed a lot, and I learned a lot about myself and what motivates or what drives my behaviours, what drives my thought patterns, all of which I was totally oblivious to before that. But having said that, I think the number one thing I'd like to sort of acknowledge and state in this episode is that do we need ayahuasca? That's the question. And I feel certainly it helps. The sense of community that it brings is very worthwhile and worthy aspect of it all. But I'd have to say, especially since being in a long-term committed relationship and having a child, that really is the mirror. You know, they talk about plant medicines being a mirror, and they are to an extent. But I think there's no substitute to being in a relationship with another, and also having a child as part of that. For the reasons that are very much like an ayahuasca ceremony, though, that there's absolute beauty and joy and amazement with it all. But there's also some pretty shit times as well. And I think the one thing I learned from the ayahuasca ceremonies, my biggest lesson from the ayahuasca ceremonies has really been to surrender, to not let the ego get wrapped up in it all. Because certainly with an ayahuasca ceremony, the ego dissolution that occurs makes it easier for you to surrender. But especially for me, I was quite sort of hard-headed going into it. It took me a good 12, 13 ceremonies to get that, to understand that that, you know, surrendering is the key to happiness, is the key to joy. In our society, especially as a man, you're not taught that really, or encouraged for that. So and then in real life, when you're in a relationship, the ego can take over, you know, the that child aspect of us that needed protection, that you know, when things aren't going our way in a relationship or what have you, or we're not getting what we want, that the child comes out. And I think with ayahuasca, it's helped me to, and also because of my partner Leah also helping me to become aware when I'm like that. The medicine sort of has shown me to be aware of those moments, even though it doesn't happen all the time. So it's certainly a worthwhile experience. The fact that it's illegal still in most parts of the world is an absolute joke. It's not a substance that's addictive. It's not a substance that is detrimental to your health. In fact, it goes above and beyond in the understanding of health in all of its iterations, including our own personal health, the health and well-being of our family and friends, and also of the planet, of the environment. It's once you've had a few ayahuasca ceremonies, like the last thing you feel like doing is throwing your rubbish in the environment or pulling up a tree. Like, the understanding and the connection to nature that occurs from those medicine experiences is tangible, and it's long lasting, and it lasts with you. So this overall understanding of our own personal health is a valuable understanding that comes with taking part in a ayahuasca ceremony. But it's not to say that occurs for everyone. I think, and what I've seen is that there's a lot of people coming into these this field, you know, these ceremonies that are in quite a lot of pain, and no matter what they do, no matter how many ayahuasca ceremonies they have, it's still their pain is still prevalent. And I don't know what the answer to healing that is, despite me having spent a good chunk of time around people that are suffering from that over these last few years. I think it's really up to the individual. Some good community around them, but certainly ayahuasca is not the answer all the time. And there are issues around that. Like, there are issues around the cult of community. I loathe to use the word cult when it comes to these ayahuasca circles, because it's certainly not a cult. But there is the potential for that, as there is in tantra circles or meditation circles. If someone's ego is going unchecked, then certainly a cult-like status can develop within those groups, and ayahuasca is the same. But I guess the one thing that I've seen with ayahuasca is it can sort of keep you in, and people get, even though it's not an addictive substance, they get addicted to the feeling of transcendence. They get, because there's no other connection that they have. So this feeling of transcendence, this feeling of community, both in the ceremony and the morning after, for example, it's a thing. And so a lot of people will go away and not really do the work afterwards, like the integration period, which you may have heard of. The integration is a massive part of a ayahuasca experience. It really is, to take some time afterwards and really, again, implement the lessons into our daily lives is vital. It's the most important thing, and it takes will. It takes having good people around you, which I was just blessed to have some amazing people supporting me, especially in that first year or so, those first couple of years where I was doing a lot of different ceremonies. Not initially, the first year I only did a few. I had long stretches, but as I got into the understanding of this medicine, and then I sort of would do more frequent ceremonies, and I was always supported by just an amazing group of people where I could come away and we could talk and we could share experiences, and I was very fortunate for that. But not everyone does, and it's been something I've been thinking about for a long time now, is to one day start up some sort of integration group around it, because again, not everyone has that experience to be really able to go away, share their experiences, and help integrate them. There's things you can do on a personal level, like journaling really helps, or making a video like this really helps as well. Whatever it may be, there are things you can do. But I felt like I got what I was looking for. But again, it pales into comparison of the ceremony of life, Because it was easy for me in those years because I was single for most of them, and I only had myself to look after and myself to worry about. And I just have the utmost respect for those who are part of a family unit and doing that. And it's just an amazing experience. It really is, and it forces you to be selfless. It forces you to put your ego away, and I feel blessed to have had those experiences while I was single, but then to be able to help integrate them now that I'm in a relationship with a child as well. What are some of the good aspects of my time in these last 5 years? I'd like to talk about that more. The traveling, the people that I meet, the ceremonies themselves. The reason I knew I had to do my first ayahuasca ceremony was because I was in New York in 2011, and I was in Manhattan, and long story short, but I stumbled into an art gallery named Shamanic Illuminations, which had artwork in there by Pablo Maringo, the famous Peruvian shaman, and also Alex Gray. And I just stumbled in there one Thursday morning, and I'd heard of ayahuasca. It was on my radar, and I was actually heading down to South America, down to Brazil and Peru after this trip in New York, but I wasn't going to drink the medicine. And that night, Alex Gray was having the opening of this exhibition, so I got to go back that night and meet him. And the next week he came back and he gave a talk on plant medicines, ayahuasca, psilocybin mushrooms, LSD, and their benefits for healing. And I just knew that I had to do this now. Like I had to, because I had some fear before all that, like I had all the normal fears around psychedelics that had been programmed into me and to a lot of you, like for a long period of time. And understanding from his perspective, like the responsible use of psychedelics in a controlled environment where set and setting is an important aspect of the experience, really helped me to show that there's something very valuable to be found there. But it took me and that also, that whole experience of ending up in his gallery really showed me that there is such thing as fate and destiny, and that there is some sort of path, or there is some sort of direction put in our lives to go to explore. And 2 years later, in June 2013, I had my first ayahuasca ceremony, and then it just took off from there. I didn't think I'd end up traveling. I didn't think I'd end up doing as much as I did with it, but it just happened, and it was meant to happen. I'm just very, very grateful for all the experiences, for all the love, the people that I met, the everything. It was just, yeah. I mean, looking back at it now, and given that I don't even know if I'll do it. I haven't done an ayahuasca ceremony for over a year. I don't know if I'm doing another one again. To look back at those times and to think about the joy, the resilience building as well. That's another big aspect of ayahuasca ceremonies. Like to get through a ceremony and whoo, I got through that. Damn, it really puts you in good stead for other aspects of your life. Like there's things I do in life now which I used to think were hard, or just even simple daily things. Like, ugh, what a grudge. And, then you think, there's nothing. Like, remember that third ceremony in Peru when I was getting my ass handed to me by some sort of demonic forces that were spinning around, and I managed to survive. And so the resilience building has been an amazing aspect of it. The friendships, the healing that did take place, the purging, the purging of different energetic traumas. But again, whether I didn't go deep enough in, I'm not too sure, but certainly since having Layla, like a lot of my childhood stuff, a lot of those childhood traumas and experiences have come back up again, that I hadn't dealt with, that I thought I'd dealt with, but I hadn't. And, it's just the way it is. But what I'm saying is that ayahuasca isn't the cure. It's not going to cure you. And I think a lot of people go into these ceremonies wanting a cure. They're either wanting a cure or some sort of utter transcendent experience that's going to show them the knowledge of the universe. And it just doesn't work that way. You might get glimpses, you might get aspects shown, but I've yet to meet someone who's gone to an ayahuasca ceremony and then come out enlightened. That just doesn't happen. And but there's plenty of people striving for that. And I found they're the people who do like to devote themselves to that cult of personality, to be seen as that leader, to be seen as that wise man or that wise woman. So that's actually a big thing that I feel like I'd like to share too, is like some of the negative aspects of it is that whilst there's some amazing people in leadership in these communities that are just very heart-based, very loving, there's a prevalent undertone of addiction that runs through these ceremonies still, through these circles, I should say. Whether it's food addiction, drug addiction, sex addiction, whatever it may be. And that addiction and that motivation is what drives others I'm not saying it's everyone that takes on these leadership roles in these circles, but there are certain elements of them. It gives them the motivation to show themselves as that person, that wise one that come to me and I'll spew out the words that will help you understand life. And what do you say about those people? It's an issue. It really is. It doesn't get talked about. I really don't feel it does. And not talked about enough. And a lot of people will see it and they'll use compassion and forgiveness and, that this is just the person's journey. I get all that. But when those people, and it takes a lot of, it's in other circles again, like I said, it's in Tantra circles, it's in, you could even say Osho, people like that. They end up feeding on the vulnerable. So those people who go into these circles who are vulnerable, who are under a lot of pain, who are seeking means beyond themselves, will gravitate towards these other leaders, in quotations, that don't have their best intentions, who are trying to fulfill something within themselves rather than reciprocate love and build something from there. That's both in Australia, where I've sat, in England, in the US, and even in the Amazon. That happens there too. It's just in different ways and different formats in each place. So I don't know I don't know how someone who is vulnerable going into these circles prevents themselves from being caught up in that. I've seen people take thousands of dollars from other people within these circles and then spend it on drugs and tattoos. I've had female friends of mine be sexually assaulted, not to the point of rape, but certainly boundaries crossed. I think just that whole, really what's coming to me is really, it needs to be about just us as who you are as an individual. Who am I as an individual? Finding that love and that strength within, and then being able to explore, being able to seek. And how do you do that? Understanding that the answers are within you is a good start. Solitude, meditation, getting rid of distraction, yoga, eating right, physical fitness, all those aspects help to build a solid platform, like a pyramid, to be able to launch from. And for those who are in there, who take that responsibility on from their place of addiction and their place of need, I don't know, with those people, I don't know. That's just part of the journey, I guess. That's just part of everyone working it out for themselves. And it's my little bubba. She's sleeping and had a bit of a cough. Yeah, it's about everyone sort of learning from these experiences, and I just don't and it's something that's always been a issue for me is, learning from having someone take so much away. I've seen people have so much taken away from them, both financially and energetically. And it happens in all facets of society. I understand this, but what you don't expect is it to be in these circles, but it definitely is. It's a real issue, because you have people at their most vulnerable, especially when they're under the influence of the medicine of ayahuasca. It brings you back to the most vulnerable, raw state you can possibly be. But I'll conclude it by saying there is just some amazing, lovely, heart-centered, beautiful people that are involved with it as well, who give that grounding and that ethos to the whole thing that really should be applauded. The fucked up thing is that given the legality of these substances, they can go to jail for doing so. And there's changes afoot. I know there's some amazing work going on in America with MAPS, Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, who are doing work with people with trauma using psilocybin and MDMA. And there's some amazing things going on in the world. So my little bubba's awake now, so I'm going to go get her. So just a blessed experience. 5 years on. Who am I? I'm still Adrian. I think I'm just more connected to my inner child, more loving, more aware of myself and the world around me and the universe around me. And I'm just grateful for all the experiences I've had. So to those of you who have been a part of that journey with me, either through just listening to this podcast or being in my circle, for lack of a better word, those who have been close to me, my brothers and my sisters, I just want to thank you so much. And it's a fantastic life. If you have any questions about it all, please let me know. I'd love to chat to you about it. And I'll see you next time. Bye.